This is a video that answers all those weird booktube questions like, should you start a channel? How do you grow it? And why is the screen slowly zooming in right now? I'll also address how much money I earn from booktube and tell you how much time it takes me to take a video and go through my process step by step. This video is an adaptation of the Behind The Booktuber Tag, which was created by the wonderful Shelley Swearingen. I really recommend you check out her channel if you haven't already. Excellent channel. Questionable taste in books, but excellent channel. I'll be doing all Shelley's questions, but I wanted to add a few extra ones and make this a bit of a resource for people who are looking to start or grow their channel. I'm also going to be doing the questions a little out of order, and I'll start with question 5. Do you have any advice for new booktubers? And I want to start with a caveat. I'm going to be giving the advice I wish I had given myself when I started a booktube channel. Other channels might see this and they might not agree with me, and that's not because one of us is right or wrong, but because we want different things out of booktube. And I think the most important thing a channel can do is know what they want out of booktube and remember that, but also accept that that might change. I think that broadly there are 4 things that people want out of booktube: to improve their reading experience, both in terms of how many books they read and in terms of their general enjoyment of the books, to make bookish friends or just to talk about books, to enjoy the creative side of making videos, and finally to grow a bookish platform and hopefully make a little bit of book pocket money. Look, the first 2 of them I don't need to give you a lot of advice on. Just be active, talk to people, join in bookish events that appeal to you, try to interact with big, small and medium-sized channels. I certainly wouldn't say I was a big channel, but I can get over 100 comments on a video. And I try to check out everybody I don't know, but it's really easy to miss people, especially with the way YouTube have changed things lately. To be honest, I've been here a while. I'm subscribed to more channels than I can keep up with. But somebody new to booktube, odds are that they haven't yet subscribed to over 500 booktube channels, and they're probably going to make friends with you faster. They're also more likely to disappear after a month. This is why I think it's really important to talk to a range of people early on. If you're interested in the content creation side of things, the video making side of things, then I really love you. I think it's a real shame that more booktubers don't appreciate the joy of making a great video. It's something I didn't enjoy at first, but I've gradually changed my mind about it, and now I would edit as a full-time job if there are any employers out there looking for a work from home video editor. You can search Google and YouTube for how to do almost any editing trick you want. I just recommend to experiment, to have fun, to don't be scared to take a risk. Watch videos and ask how and why. Every change is done for a reason. There's nothing more satisfying than figuring out how to do a new trick. If this is you, make sure that you have some good editing software. You'll probably need to pay for it. I would recommend Filmora. There are plenty of programs out there that I haven't tried, and I'm very much once I find something that works, I stick to it. Generally, if you are interested in creating videos, you're going to make better videos than most booktubers because that's your passion. That's the first 3 reasons, but growing your channel, that's the difficult one, and I think everybody wants to do that. We make videos, we want them to be watched. Everything I have said so far has been about the creator, but if you want to grow your channel, you need to consider the viewers. So let me ask something. Why do people watch your channel? That won't be the same for everybody, but you need to know what value your viewers are getting from your video so you can deliver it. Every video you make, you need to ask yourself, why are people going to watch it? What value are you bringing to your viewers? And then, how can I add more value? That's why you'll never see haul or TBR videos on my channel. I don't know why people watch them. As a result, I don't know how to make those videos good. And all I'm doing is copying somebody else. And this, I think, is the biggest mistake I see other booktubers make. Making videos because other people are making them. Don't make them if you're making them to grow your channel. Make them because you think your viewers want them. Never make a video because it's popular. I'm not saying that TBRs and hauls are bad videos. Some creators do wonderful jobs of them, but we also have different audiences. This brings me to another tip. Be consistent. A lot of people will think that that means posting at 7 p.m. every Monday or whatever time of the week that is. That's not a bad thing to do, but it's not very important. What I mean is produce consistent content. Similar videos. If you bought tickets to see Pink Floyd and when you got there, Joan Rivers was performing, even though you're still going to get an excellent show, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. I'm going to give you an idea. It will make a successful bookish channel, but I don't want to do it. It's just not my thing. Adaptations. If every video you made was comparing a screen adaptation to a book, that could be a very good channel. There's clear value. Fans of the movie, they want to know if it's a good book to read. Fans of the book, they want to know if their favorite book has been butchered or if it's been faithfully presented. Some fans are going to want to see a breakdown of the changes, and some fans are going to want to see if the book was better or the movie was better. And if you do this as a video idea and go back to your regular content, the video might do really well. But if you do it every video, then viewers are going to see you as the adaptation person. And on every one of your videos that they see, they're going to see other ones of your videos and they're going to offer the same value to them. So what you're doing is you're turning one view into a chain of views. And most viewers, they don't subscribe the first time they visit your channel. By making consistent content, people binge. YouTube loves a binge, but also people are more likely to subscribe at the end of the binge. A lot of people will say that you can't make money on Booktube, but I'd like to remind everybody that PewDiePie was a booktuber. And okay, maybe that's stretching it, but how much money do you think Jack Edwards is making? What about other big channels like Cindy Lala or Murphy Napier? Most people who say you can't make money on Booktube are making the same videos as everybody else. They're playing to a saturated market. Their primary concern is not to make good content, but to create conversations and friendship and to create a better reading life. And that's not a bad reason to be there, but that doesn't give them the best point of view to say whether they can make money or not. I make about $50 a month from ad revenue on Booktube. Clearly that's not enough to live on, but I get about 10k views a month. Social Blade states that Jack Edwards got 2.7 million views. Jack made $14,000 last month, and I think there are very few people who would call that a bad salary. Cindy only got 1 million views, which puts her at about $5,000 a month. Murphy Napier 1.3 million, which means about 6.5 thousand. Lala 350k, which puts her at about 1.75k. These figures are estimates of their YouTube ad revenue only. They may be slightly inaccurate, but they don't include things like affiliate links, sponsorships, and Patreon, which is where we're going next. Have you ever thought about starting a Patreon? Today's video is brought to you by my wonderful Patreons. You could be a Patreon too. The link is in the show notes. For some reason, this is a polarizing topic. When I announced I was starting a Patreon, I had 5 people unsub from my channel. Joke's on them. I had a net gain of 6 subs over the next 24 hours, and I only knew that so many people left from the stats on the video. I've never been so happy to have subscribers leave. Making content is really time consuming. It took me 24 hours to make my Booker Prize video. It was 46 minutes long, and I think that's a fair representation. Every minute of video takes me 30 minutes to create. About 2/3 of that time is taken on scripting and research. The Booker video script is about 7,000 words, and let's talk about scripting for just a little bit. It's something I completely recommend, and I know some corners of Booktube look down on scripting, but that corner wants you to fail. I have scripted every video for 18 months and nobody has called me out for it. I think it's obvious when I see people script, but nobody calls anybody out for it even though they say they hate it. Scripting will instantly improve your video quality. If you hate the idea of scripting, you absolutely must plan your video and be prepared to edit hard. Otherwise, tough love, it's not going to be good. Unplanned videos where you just turn the camera on are bad. They're fine if you're just conversation starting and being cozy and nice. But if you want to grow, it's not going to be good content. The other third of my time to create a video is editing. I decided to count the number of cuts I made in my book of video. I kind of guessed it would be somewhere around the 100 mark. I was really surprised to find out that it was 786 cuts, or one every 3.5 seconds. And I don't think many booktubers would count to 786 for a video. I think that that's the sort of effort that makes a video better. A lot of people will painstakingly remove every time they say count the number of times I breathe in. In its raw form, that video was an hour 40 long. I cut out almost an hour. It took me 24 hours to make that video, and it has made me about $15 in ad revenue. I would feel insulted and personally hurt if you were still against me starting a Patreon. It's a real problematic bootlicking Tory scab opinion to have. It's essentially the expectation that somebody will exploit themselves. Nobody has to be pro Patreon for their channel. Nobody has to buy anybody's Patreon. But please appreciate the realities of the situation and don't get upset at creators for asking for money for their time. You're welcome to watch every video I create free of charge. Please enjoy them. Just accept that I need to make money too. I have received such wonderful support from my Patreons, and I really encourage every creator to consider doing it. I really hope that this becomes a normalized part of BookTube, because we're worth it. And if we don't ask for it, we won't get it. What has surprised you the most about BookTube, both in a good way and in a bad way? It's a cliche, but the answer to this question is the community. But it's both in a good way and in a bad way. I've never felt like I belong somewhere more than BookTube. The people here are so accepting, they're so wonderful. There is just a culture of good here. I love it. And this includes both the creators and the viewers. And that's why when I have negative interactions with people within the community, it's so shocking. I'm not talking about trolls, I'm talking about other booktubers, by the way. I won't name people, I don't want to throw mud, but there are some very well-known members of this community who I haven't bothered to deal with for several years. I get negative comments on a pretty regular basis. I will go into why this happens later on, but there is a big difference between a troll and another creator posting negative things on your video. And honestly, there's so many quality booktubers out there. I can't keep up with them all. When somebody acts up, it's a really easy decision to move on, because I would like to clone myself to keep up with all the content. How do you balance reading with BookTube and the rest of your life? I have two answers to this question. One, I don't live a balanced life. I have ADHD and I embrace the hyperfocus. Two, I audiobook while I clean, cook, walk the dog and garden. Have you made any mistakes on BookTube? Loads of them, but mistakes are chances to learn. Early on, I made anti-thumbnails because I thought that they were funny. If you go back far enough, you'll see random animals and weird stuff on a lot of my early thumbnails. If you really want to go back and watch an early video, watch my review of Dark Emu or The Count of Monte Cristo and see how many mistakes I make. Lighting is obviously a big issue early on, and I repeat myself a lot, which I still do. Now I proof watch all of my videos before I upload them. I write down all the errors with a timestamp to fix them up, and then I decide if it's worth fixing. I don't think viewers want perfect, but I don't want to make it harder for them to understand what I'm saying. I don't want to change the flow of the video. Going back to my Book of Prize video, all of the book covers were staying in for longer than I intended. I'd done something weird in the editing process and I don't know what, but I didn't pick it up until I watched it after I exported it. A lot of filming errors and a lot of scripting errors can be fixed in editing. Occasionally I say the wrong word. I can just get a little bit muddled. Once I said teacher when I meant to say student. I found a later point of the video where I said student. I copied that bit and I put it under the video in the editing process. Then I muted the original video just for that word. The lip sync looked out just for a word before it cut back in, but I think having my head move just for one word would have made things a bit weird. And changes in movement have a habit of emphasizing things. I often crop in or crop out as a way of adding punctuation into my videos, so I didn't want to replicate that to fix that error. The other option I could have done is I could have just put some sort of B-roll over the top. There's a video I shouldn't have made, but But that is question 8. Have you regretted posting a video? The video that comes to mind is my review of Spare by Prince Harry, because people started to talk to me about him and I realized I didn't actually care about this issue. I didn't want to have that conversation, and I was wading into a political argument that I was so ignorant of, and by listening to what he was saying and taking it at face value, I managed to both be on Harry's side and against Harry. I know some trolls just come on to these sort of videos and they look for an argument. They could have saved themselves a lot of time just by scrolling through the comments and finding somebody that they disagreed with. But that brings me to the point of make content that you want to watch. Make content for your viewers, for your audience. Make content that if somebody else made it, you would be excited to watch. Let's be honest. I was chasing subscribers when I made that video. While that video would have been a very popular video for the right channel, that channel is not Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. And it's one of the only videos that I have a net loss of subscribers from. Even when I say controversial things like, I support the trans community, or white people should consider the feelings of black people before we talk about them. I lose subs when I do that, but I gain more subs than I lose. Honestly, I feel like that's a good thing. Moving on to question 6. What are your thoughts on the YouTube algorithm? It's not as bad as some people think, but it's also not particularly good either. I think it prioritizes subscribers and views way too much. I watch a bit of YouTube that isn't bookish, and look, I like Hank Green as much as the next person. I'm glad he's kicking cancer's ass. I'm not saying I never want to see a Hank Green video, but he's just one creator YouTube. Big creators and small creators can make the same content, but once the algorithm knows that you don't hate a certain big creator, it's like, have some Hank Green. Here, watch this video that Hank made 7 years ago. No, not that one. What about this one he made 4 years ago? Actually, I wouldn't mind somebody breaking down the books nominated for the Giller Prize YouTube, but if I waited for the algorithm to show me that, I'd probably have to scroll past 7,000 impressions of Hank and 2,000 impressions of John, because you can't enjoy Hank without enjoying a little bit of John. Even if you watch Booktube only, the larger creators get pushed, even if they're not creators you watch all the time. I think that this is just too strong. From a creator point of view, it's good because it means success breeds success, but it's bad because it's harder to become successful in the first place. You have to do better than Hank fucking Green, and let's face it, if you don't like Hank Green, you probably drink the blood of children, but how is anybody supposed to compete with him? You'd probably have to bury yourself alive for 40 hours, give away a private island, and make some sort of replica Squid Game. But who on earth would do that? I also think that the algorithm, the categories it uses are too broad. There are fantastic bookish creators making top quality content about thrillers or young adult, and they're killing it, and good on them, but I'm not interested in that. I would prefer to see a mediocre channel talking about literary fiction than a well-polished channel talking about books that I'm not interested in reading. Booktube never learns my taste in books, and that's because it's grouping all bookish things together. When it comes to booktubers who read similar books to me, the only channels I see are the ones that I watch all the time, and even then it's mostly Hank Green. The algorithm prioritizes titles and thumbnail too much. I don't really see a way around that, but CTR is important, and that a lot of booktubers know that that means click-through rate. I think that's a problem. When I watch YouTubers like somebody like Ed from Film Booth talk about how they spend more time making their thumbnails than they do on their video, and if you watch Ed from Film Booth, you'll know that he spends a lot of time on his videos. That's mind-blowing. Thumbnails are a really, really big thing. Regarding growing your channel, good titles and good thumbnails are more important than good content, and that's wrong. But it's also really understandable, because if you can't get people to watch your content to begin with, it kind of doesn't matter how good your content is. Tough love time. The majority of booktubers make terrible thumbnails. If you want to grow your channel, this is the number one thing you can work on. Personally speaking, this is the thing that I do worse. It's something that I need to improve too. But if you're looking for a great booktuber to learn from, I think Shelley is fantastic at thumbnails. She's got a very good understanding of where your eyes are drawn, and she's such a talented graphic designer. She's using Photoshop and not Canva for a start. And you know she's bringing the A-grade thumbnails. But I do see people copying Shelley's tactics, and I think they almost always fail. And the thing is, it's not just about being a good graphic designer, but it's also about communicating a message. Don't overthink things. There are some real basic tips for good thumbnails. If I go back to the first things I said, consider the value you're offering the viewers and put that in your thumbnail. Be clear and concise and simple. A basic thumbnail idea that is better than 95% of the thumbnails is a picture of you taking up about half of the screen, picture of a book taking up the other half of the screen, and all cut out on a simple background that provides contrast. Maybe the word review or wrap or whatever is appropriate to your video down below. But please, there are so many ugly thumbnails with this like plain background with squares on it, with stills from the videos in the squares. If you're not paying for premium Canva, Google BG Remove. The first result you'll get is a free background remover tool. It will cut yourself out and it will make your thumbnails so much better. Or if you're going to use frames from your video, don't put it in a box, make it the whole thing and just put something simple on it like wrap. That's all you need to do. Don't minimize things. A little more advanced advice would be your thumbnail is part of your hook. You want to communicate what your video is doing very quickly at the beginning of it, and you can do that with your title and thumbnail. Title, thumbnail, and hook should be the starting point of any video. 7A, how do you decide what videos to make? 7B, are you ever overwhelmed with video ideas? I mood create and I always have too many ideas. That's not overwhelming. I have ADHD. That's my superpower. I have that for every aspect of my life. That's how my brain works. If I didn't accept that I wouldn't get to 95% of the ideas that I have, I think I would literally explode. Ideas are not a problem for me. I think determining what is a good idea, that's the issue. I've literally had an idea I've wanted to do since before I started this channel, and it still keeps coming back to me, and it's something that I will do eventually, because those ideas that come back to you after you've forgotten them, they're the gold ones, I think. Are the numbers of views or subscribers meaningful to you? Are the numbers of views or subscribers a measure of success? I mean, again, it depends on why you're creating booktube content. Personally, of course they're a measure of success. But if you're here to make friends, 30k people watching a video and no comments, that's a disaster. I've recently said that I would like to be a full-time content creator. So obviously those numbers are meaningful. Every time I see those numbers increase or go up, I do a little dance. I think ask any creator, would you prefer to have 100 or 200 views? Would you prefer to have 1 million or 2 million subs? Everybody is going to say the larger number, whatever the option is. Lately, I've generated a few videos that have generated lots and lots of comments, which is wonderful, but I have not been able to keep up with them, and that is an issue that is so absurd to me. As I get bigger, I think the challenge of having a personal relationship with some of my viewers is going to be a little bit more difficult, but something I will figure out. There are plenty of channels much bigger than me that manage to do it. I'm having some small growing pains, and I just need to figure some things out and do some things differently, and I think that that's normal too. Question 10, are you disappointed with the growth on your channel? Look, I've been here a while, so I think I can very fairly say yes and no. My growth was very slow to begin with, and that was really disappointing. I had a number of people ask, why don't you have more subs? The answer to that is I wasn't delivering things consistently. I started with Nell, and Nell and I have wonderful banter. She is also the smartest person I know. So sometimes we would have these conversations about issues that would involve her having brilliant insight and me struggling to keep up. Other times we would act like gooses. And trust me, gooses is the correct word. They're geese when they're on a farm, but they're gooses when they're a collection of fools. And then we would do like a rap video, but We wouldn't be reading the same books, so we would take turns, but I would always read more than Nell. So you would go from getting a Nell heavy video to a Scott heavy video, and our review styles, they weren't the same. Lots of viewers thought that we had the same taste in books, which is not untrue, but we also have very different tastes in books. I think it was really hard for viewers to recognize that we were different people with everything that was going on. And when Nell left the channel, she wanted to take a break from Booktube and I didn't, so we decided that I would do solo videos for a bit. And when she was ready to return, she decided to start her own Booktube channel, and that was the catalyst for growth on Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. Not only was I able to be much more consistent, but I started scripting. Conversational videos are great, but they just don't get to the point quickly. I completely changed how I did things, and I don't know how much I would have changed things on Booktube if I was happy with the growth. I think if you feel that you're successful, you don't change things, you don't try to improve things. It was also difficult to try and build a channel with somebody who had different priorities, who was creating Booktube for a different reason to me. And that was a huge problem. If 12 months ago you had have said to me I'd be getting 100 to 200 new subs a month, I would have bitten your hand off. But the thing is, once you have a month where you get 200 subs, getting 100 subs the next month, it doesn't feel very good anymore. Wherewith, if you were getting 50 subs a month, getting 100 subs the next month feels great. You're always chasing the next high and everything's got to be bigger and better. I'm finally at a place where I can calmly accept that and just feel mostly good about the growth on my channel. I can understand that reading too much into the numbers can make you feel very miserable. Have you ever thought about quitting Booktube? No. If I quit Booktube, something big has changed in my life, and I don't know what that would be. I could see myself in the future doing Booktube in a more casual, laid-back way. I can't see myself quitting unless something completely changes. Question 12. What are the most touching comments? What are the most negative comments? I'm aiming to deliver very specific things in my video, and when I get complimented saying how much a viewer loves those specific things, that's wonderful. That's validation. I get lovely comments too, and they say nice things. If they're a little vaguer, if they are saying things that are adjacent to what I was trying to do or whatever, I adore those comments. They make me feel good, but the comments that list exactly what I'm trying to do and say that they love that about the videos, I'm seen, I'm validated, and I'm loved. That is the best comment that I think any creator can get. Negative comments, I'm going to say something silly. Negative comments are a good thing. They're a sign you're doing something good. They're a fact of success. The more successful you are, the more negative comments you're going to get. Every negative comment, that should be like a little notch on your belt. You should be like, yeah, I got another one. There are certain things I do that caught negative comments though. I don't hide my political opinion, and I'm radically left-wing and very socially progressive. Some people, they don't agree with those opinions, and some people get upset at them. I get negative comments about that, but I feel horrible hiding my opinions. It feels like hiding my identity. It feels like putting on a mask, and I'm not doing that. I could get 1 million negative comments and I wouldn't change this. I will leave Booktube before I change this. I'm not hiding who I am. It's miserable. I also tell you when I don't like a book. And I use a lot of dramatic, over-the-top language, which makes that more polarizing than it needs to be. I think it's important that I deliver honest reviews to people. I think that's the integrity of my channel. I hate watching channels that only praise books. I don't trust those channels. There are nice ways to say that you don't like a book. You don't have to do it like I do it. I just don't think anybody likes every book that they read. I think it's important to give viewers enough information to understand why I have come to the opinion that I have come to, so they can decide if that matters to them. Some people just want to tell me that I'm an idiot, and I mean, they're not wrong, but I kind of think you might want to back that up with a bit more than an insult. I've had a few authors comment on my channels and reach out to me and stuff, and as that becomes more of a thing, I might change my language and try not to be quite so hyperbolic, but I certainly won't stop stop telling you that I don't enjoy the books that I don't enjoy. I think most negative comments that you get, they're coming from a place of hurt. It's saying much more about the person who is saying the hurtful comment than it is about me or about my video. Only miserable people say horrible things. So I usually just offer them a hug, which doesn't seem to cheer them up as much as I hoped it would. In regards to BookTube, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Hopefully I've knocked Hank Green off his smug little perch. Social Blade predicts I will have about 140,000 subs. That would be amazing. Social Blade's predictions can vary a lot over a year, and I do find them either very optimistic or very pessimistic, so I'll take that with a rather large pinch of salt. But every year I hope to improve the quality of my video. Every year I hope to improve my average viewers, my subscriber count, and so on and so forth, and I've done that every year, and I just hope to continue to do that. In 5 years' time, I hope I'm earning an income from BookTube or part of an income from BookTube and making excellent content. I hope I'm talking to new bookish people and I'm still talking to the same bookish people that I love now. But 5 years is a long time in the future to predict. I mean, we'll probably all be dead from climate change by then. I want to take you through my creation process and the reason I do things. I don't recommend copying me. I do things in a very long and arduous way, but I do think people will be interested in it. The longest part of any video for me is scripting and research. I've already spoken about that a fair bit, but one of the values in scripting is it points out points that I can research and add extra value to. And I know some people can produce very good videos on the fly. Excellent if you can do that, but scripting will make those videos better. I can see those people who can just do that excellent stuff, and I think if you scripted your video, just how incredible would that video be? I think the key to a good script is to get to the content as quick as possible. I hate introductions with long explanation about why you're making a video. Introductions need to be quick. They need to provide a little bit of extra detail from your title or thumbnail, but they really need to work together with them and complement that. Like the average person speaks at about 140 words per minute, and the best intros are over in less than 60 seconds. So your intro needs to be less than 140 words. Hard to do that without scripting. In my recent reads videos, I've started with a very simple introduction technique, which includes a photo of the author holding their book or something like that, and a little voiceover saying, in today's video, the latest book by insert famous author here. And so many people compliment me on that technique, on that idea. Thank you, by the way, but I stole that idea from a news channel. I'm at a loss as to why I get all of those compliments from booktubers about it, but nobody's copied me yet. And I'm like, if you see something you like, steal it and adapt it to your audience. If you like it, chances are your audience is going to like it. Retention is a big part of the YouTube algorithm. It's a stat that I think tells you a lot. It's something that I think is the most useful piece of feedback you can get rather than views or subscribers. Every video will get a big drop off in the first 30 seconds. And that's why a good introduction is key, because if you get to that content quickly, you get to reduce that drop off. When I look at that retention chart, a quick drop off that becomes a flat line, that to me indicates that I've made a good video. A continual drop off, that's a sign that viewers got bored. I wouldn't say that the higher your retention, the better your video is. I think that the algorithm makes that a very hard stat to look at, and I'm much more interested in the shape. I think a lot of booktube is really just book reviews, and I think if you can produce a good book review, you'll be able to produce good video. And I'll tell you where I think 95% of booktubers go wrong. A review is not just a repeat of the plot. Not only is the plot only one aspect of the book, but how many times do you think I've seen that plot summary before? This is an example of how much time I think is required for the plot. Tender is the Flesh is a dystopian horror about a world where human meat is commercially farmed. 17 words. That includes 4 words for the title and a breakdown of the genre. And once that part is over, you can tell me what's interesting about the book. Why did you like it? Why do you hate it? Plot is now demoted to supporting compelling evidence. If I go back to something I've said earlier, consistency is really good here. What are you going to say about this book that you're going to look at in every book? How are you going to do that in a consistent manner that your viewers are going to like? Because once you start to be consistent, you're going to have the viewers come to you. Deliver a good book review as something that will make that retention line go flat. That drop off at the start, it's hard to stop that, but it can be reduced. And I know I've talked about having a quick introduction. Something that people are really entertained by is novelty, by movement, by something changing. And if your attention was starting to wane at this part of the video, I bet you paid quick attention to that second I flipped myself upside down. At the start of my videos, I do a lot of zooms and crops and B-rolls, and that drops off relatively quickly. And I'm trying to tap into some sort of novelty to keep the viewer's attention just that bit longer. Or I'm trying to deliver some value to you so you want to keep watching. I've already said I edit in Filmora. I film on Nell's laptop as it has a better camera than my laptop. I also edit on Nell's laptop because she loves me borrowing her computer when she's trying to use it. Also, I find moving files around just a painful thing. I can read my script off a laptop screen, and that has the bonus that I'm looking at the right point of the screen. I did use a DSLR, but it stopped filming every 10 minutes for no reason. And it's a talking head video. It doesn't need amazing resolution, especially with a face like mine. This doesn't need HD. I have professional lights behind the camera, and more often than not, I film when it is dark outside. I am never happy with my lighting, and that's really because I'm poor and live in a shoebox that is permanently dark. Having a better camera and a house that has better lighting are things that would improve my video, but they're impossible for me at the moment, and I don't find them big restrictions in all honesty. I use a Blue Yeti microphone. I think a good microphone is a really important early investment. However, it's worth noting that often built-in microphones are better than cheap standalone microphones, depending on what you're filming on. So do some research. When it comes to editing, the first thing I like to do is adjust my volume and make things louder. I need to see those up and downs so I know where I'm cutting, but increasing the volume too much can distort things, so be careful you're not clipping the top off if you increase your volume. If I'm watching a YouTube video and I can't hear them speak, I don't continue watching them. I've seen other booktubers say similar things. Different devices have different volumes, so it might sound good to you but terrible to somebody else. So just turn your volume up. It's the easiest solution. I've only ever had one booktuber say that my volume wasn't right. It is very useful feedback, but nobody wants to be the messenger of bad news, so don't expect to hear that you have that problem from anybody. And the reason to do this before you start editing is that the next step that I will do is run the silence detector over the video, which is a thing in Filmora that will automatically cut out any pauses, which is a wonderful time saver. I used to use Time Bolt before this, but Filmora is just as good, cheaper, and is an entire editing suite. I also find things like if you sneeze, you often go quiet, then you sneeze, then you go quiet again. And so when you're watching a bit of content after you've had all the silences removed, you can just click on the sneeze and delete it, and you don't have to do the cut either side of the sneeze to get rid of it. Cutting is super important for the pacing of a video, especially if you're like me and you prattle on. Getting rid of dead air adds to that pace and stops people getting bored. I once did a stand-up comedy course, and the rule they gave comics in that course was every 12 seconds, you want a punchline. You want 5 punchlines every minute. That's the audience attention span. And it meant that if you had a bad joke, you'd have another joke coming, so sooner or later you'd get that laugh. With a video, swap punchlines to something interesting, an emotional reaction, or something of value. You want to constantly be providing that. And that's why I like to edit out all the dead air to put things in as close together. I think a video needs to be as long as it needs to be, but if you're not providing consistent value, then your video could be 30 seconds long and it's too long. Look, I'm not an expert. You can tell from my channel size. What I do is very labor intensive. It's not for everybody, especially if you're primarily here to make friends. So don't feel that you should copy everything I've said. So I want to finish by repeating the advice that I think everybody should take away from this video if you take nothing else. Remember why you're doing BookTube. what you hope to gain from it. And if that is channel growth, figure out what value your channel is providing your viewers. Make sure you communicate how you're delivering that in your hook, in your title, and in your thumbnails. And most important, make sure every video is delivering that. I'd like to thank my wonderful Patreons for supporting me and helping me make this content. And I'd like to thank my new Patreons, Laura, Krista, Laurie, and Eva. If you have any questions about anything that I've said, I'm really happy to answer them. I'm also happy to give criticism of your channel if you're happy to receive it. But please keep it in the comment section so other people can learn from it, please. And also, please remember, I'm not an expert. If I was an expert, there would be an M after the number of subscribers I have, not a K. Bye-bye.